As morning broke, Jace wakes to find the girl crawling on the floor quietly, searching for something familiar that she can distinguish. Jace notices the girl's side has completely healed from where she had been mortally wounded. It would seem that she had obtained more than just a rebirth from Jace's life force, but also his ability to rapidly heal as well. Regrettably, since her eyes had been completely removed during the attack, they could not heal fully, and she was left with scarred eye sockets. "How are you feeling?" Jace asks, insisting to help the nervous girl to get some fresh air. Meekly, the young girl speaks into the darkness. Better, and thank you." The two of them make their way slowly out of the building and meet the white-robed man who greets them. "Hello there, dear. My name is Zen, and the man next to you is Jace. You must be hungry." He pokes a long stick into a strong fire which held breakfast on top of the burning flame. After being seated and served a healthy plate full of food, the girl tries to introduce herself while still shoveling handfuls of food into her mouth. "It's nice to meet you two. You both seem much nicer than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. Oh, and my name is Bia Cast, by the way, but I just call myself BC." "It's nice to meet you too," Jace replies, his voice sounding just as nervous as the girl's. They all finish their meal, and Jace is told by Zen to go gather some wood and food from the surrounding forest while he talks to the young girl about how she had arrived with Jace on his mountaintop. Agreeing, Jace enters the forest line surrounding the campsite, and Zen begins to ask BC what she remembers from growing up in the Devil's Playground, the most recent events, including the most recent events of her trying to escape. Zen informs BC that he will have Jace help her recover her eyes, but that she might not like what she sees when she opens them. "You might not understand my meaning right now, but I think you will once you see Jace for what he truly is." Zen finishes his statement and BC nods, still unaware of his meaning. Jace returns with the wood nearly split and throws it into the dying fire and begins cooking the animal he had stalked and killed with his bare hands. "It is so pleasant on the mountain top," BC says, wanting to stay another night, but Zen answers back, "I'm sorry, BC, but you will have to leave now for the Temple of Rise. If you want to restore your eyesight, time is of the essence, I'm afraid." They say their thanks, and the two of them start their trip to the Temple of Rise, which is named after the army's leader who fought against Broski's years ago. Jace crafts a walking stick for BC as they set out, but even with this and holding Jace's hand, BC is still stumbling over most of the uneven ground. As they find themselves roughly halfway down the mountain, there is a disturbing sound coming from one of the bushes near them. Unable to see what is going on, BC begins swinging her stick around wildly. "Oh God, what is that?" she screams, causing Jace to laugh until being thwacked with her stick. "Ah, crap," he says as blood falls out of his struck nose. A flash of Broski enters his mind, and Jace must fight himself for a second before calming and disarming her. Trying to find something to focus his mind, he remembers the noise. Peeking into the brush, a ball that is made of pure energy jumps out, making a sound that would seem like a mouse. As it zigzags, BCS, "What's happening, Jace?" As it runs in zigzags, BCS, "What's happening, Jace?" Jace explains that it is a Rutaga, a bolt of lightning that has hit a freshly deceased being. It is, in this case, a field mouse. Usually when a bolt of lightning strikes a living thing, it kills it, but because the life force is gone from the body, it has this effect, giving the being a tremendous electrical defense, and in some cases, an offense. BC collects herself and listens to it zip around as a wild ball of energy. Reaching out her hand, the electrical mouse calms down and takes on the form of an ordinary mouse. Before long, the Rutaga is nestled into a pocket located in the center of BC's shirt, and Jace is astonished with how easily BC is able to gain the little critter's trust and senses that this animal may help to protect her in the future. As they reach the bottom of the mountain, BC's movements have miraculously improved greatly, and she doesn't even need to hold onto Jace any longer. "You're a quick learner, BC," Jace comments, trying to start up some small talk with her. "Thanks, I'm starting to get pretty used to it now," BC answers back, but in doing so loses her concentration and stumbles along the rooted forest floor. After making their way to the outskirts of the forest and partial sandy ground, the partial sandy ground felt more natural underneath her. Feeling more stable on her feet, BC asked Jace a question. What were you doing in the Devil's Playground anyways? Normally, the only people who come and go from that place would leave me with too many bruises to count." "I was just looking for something," Jace answers hesitantly, trying not to say anything that would give his past away. Then BC says something that stops Jace in his tracks. "You must know about Broski. He was the one who built the playground from the ground up." As she continues moving forward into the conversation, unaware of Jace's abrupt withdrawal. By the time Jace regains his composure, he finds BC struggling waist deep in quicksand, with a look of confusion upon her face. Holding back his frustration with himself, he luckily is able to retrieve her with the walking stick she was still gripping and helps her out. A pissed off and soaked Rutaga squeaks wildly at Jace. "Where the hell did you go?" "Me and Root thought you were right behind us," BC says, more afraid than upset. "Sorry, I got distracted," Jace replies back as he tries to calm down the Rutaga. As the smell of the wooded area dissipates, BC becomes quiet and begins to slow her footsteps. The thoughts of returning to the hellish prison makes her cringe after being treated so kindly by Zen and Jace. Understanding what is wrong, Jace attempts to cheer her up with some uplifting words. "You know you never have to go back there again. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't." She smiles, pleased with the effort, and asks to check her bag as it feels as though it was becoming lighter. Surprised, they find that Root had eaten all of their remaining food they had stored for the journey. Oh, I should have seen this coming, Jace says, leaning his head back and placing his hand upon his forehead. Now stuck, wondering whether to climb back into the forest for food or to move forward, Jace and BC stand pondering the situation. Jokingly, Jace suggests eating Root. We still have a tasty little critter that we can share. BC doesn't take this idea so kindly and swings her stick at him. Don't you dare eat Root. Blocking the stick, Jace apologizes. I'm sorry, I wouldn't really eat Root. I don't think it's actually possible. Just then, a giant sandworm emerges from underneath the ground. Root jumps from BC's hand and fries the creature into a delicious hot and ready meal. The three of them fill their bellies and stock up before they venture forth to the Temple of Rise. Hours later, we find the two companions still moving across one of the sand dunes' edge. BC had become tired and was now being carried piggyback. Conversation stays light, but the company was greatly appreciated by both of them. We should be coming up on the rise soon, Jace says, starting to feel relieved by how comfortable he had become around one of the strangers he had befriended besides Zen. Seeing the temple on the horizon, Jace readjusts BC and fastens her to his back under his cloak. Things are going to get a bit scary from here on out. Try to be brave, little lady, he says, but he knows that she is not the only one that will be afraid in the events that are about to take place. She holds on tight and Jace picks up speed until he is at a full sprint. With the rise getting closer and closer, booby traps start to spring up to prevent them from reaching their destination. BC, still strapped under the cloak on Jace's back, feels the cloth start to rip from the immense surge of G-forces caused by him avoiding the deathly ambushes coming out of the rocky ground. Passing through the first trap barrier, Jace bolts for the second defense region, which is an endless hole surrounding the rise. In a leap of faith, he jumps from the edge of what would seem like an endless pit, only to fall several yards short. Luckily, spinning blades launch out at them, and Jace uses them to step across the last few yards needed. Finally landing on solid ground, he makes his way towards the temple, with BC still on his back. In alarm, guards and monks come to see who had made it through their defenses, trying his best to hide his face under the cloak's hood. Jace begs for the monks to help BC restore her eyes, who at the time was still dizzy to do anything but barf all over herself. Please help restore this young girl's eyes. It's my fault she lost them, and I'll do anything to have them restored. As the monks openly agree to help BC be healed, the guards eye Jace suspiciously. Jace moves slowly to an almost dried up well near the temple's healing center doors, still trying to hide his infamous face. As Jace leans in to reach for some water, a younger monk walks over and investigates him more closely. Lifting himself away from the well, the monk notices right away who was before him, and immediately sounds the alarm for the guards, thinking he is apprehending Jace as the evil Broski. Jace evades countless guards and their weapons without killing any of them, and simultaneously guarding the door where BC was being treated in solidarity. Holding the guards back for what to him feels like ages, the attacks finally stop and Jace hears the unlocking of the doors and turns to address BC, only to be disappointed with a blow to the face by one of the guard's higher ranked officers. The officer snickers, thinking he has the upper hand, but what looks back in return is the cruel, heartless, and manifestation of Broski. Grabbing the chest plate of the man, Broski stares with a smug face as the guard unleashes a furious number of blows on Jace, trying to get free from his grasp. The rest of the guards crowd around Jace near the door and begin striking blades upon his skin, but it held stronger than any iron. With the last bit of breath, with the last bit of strength the leader has, he spits in Jace's eyes and falls limp from exhaustion. Broski wipes away the spit with a chuckle and repays him by spitting so hard it hits him like buckshot. Reawakening in this pain, the man screams in agony. This scream snaps Jace back to his senses, and he quickly releases the man back into the crowd. Jace, stricken with remorse, then falls to his knees begging for them to leave him be and that he only is trying to help the younger recover her eyesight. Having none of it, the guards go in for another killing blow. Before they can get close enough, a woman's voice yells, "Stop!" It is BC, now as a full-grown woman, aged by the powers of the temple's healers. "BC, your eyes!" Jace exclaims. Recognizing his voice, BC turns to Jace's side, but with her new eyesight is taken aback by the sight of him. Beaten with cuts and tears the cloak. Beaten with cuts and tears the cloak she had once ridden under was now ripped into nothing but a mangled collar. Jace becomes hesitant to look at her, afraid that she will be inimical, just like the guards have been. But to Jace's surprise, she reaches out with her hand and gently places it on his scar. BC then tells the others her story of how Jace saved her and pleads that he not be harmed any longer and to have safe passage through the temple. The crowd fills the air with screams of trickery and insults to their name, but the monks hush the masses. The monks announce to everyone that due to Broski's reputation for deceit, Jace can no longer be trusted entirely. "We will not attack as long as you leave here and never return, as well as leaving BC with us in case you are planning to use her for some vile plan. BC thanks the monks for their invitation but replies back, I'm sorry, but I have to decline your offer. I wish to be able to go with Jace to start a new life and rid the world of the memory that is Broski. She then she then asks for some medical attention for Jace, but he is fine and already back on his feet and tearing off the ribbons of tattered clothing. Again, the crowd grunts at the outrageousness of such a proposal, but the monks listen and agree as long as Jace kept on guard until he leaves. The monks listen and agree as long as Jace is kept on guard until he leaves. The next morning, after the best sleep that BC had ever had, they are given new clothes, food, and water as they depart. Jace and BC make their way over to the city's flying train, which will take them back to the other side of the defense zone. Even though the guards were still arguing about the commander being spit on by Jace, the hospitality was at a minimum. The hostility was at a minimum. Sitting on the train, Jace stares out the window while BC tries to gain his attention for conversation. Jace doesn't respond until he answers back with a question. BC, how do you know I won't betray you? He asks, with a look of worry and shame across his face. BC explains that from what Zen had told her about him and how much of a kind heart he showed her, it was simple to think so. Jace goes back to staring out the window with only his scarred eye visible, knowing that answer wouldn't be enough to ease his worried mind.